Hey, I thought I'd talk to you a bit today about the treasure hunt. I was driving around today and I was thinking how many treasure hunts use real world clues in their hunts, and I know you know there are real world answers. I'm thinking about uh, the treasure trove where you solved everything in the book, but then you had to go out and get the token, and those were all over the U.S. But I was thinking, that's everything in the book. You solve it, and then you go get it. There was no real world clues that you had to figure out where the final resting place is. So I was thinking about The Secret. Now, The Secret was pre-internet days, and you did have to start. You had to go to the starting location, and then you walk through the steps. It'll tell you walk up the staircase, turn left at the house or whatever. Walk down the street, and that's kind of real world, because pre-internet days you would have had to go out and do that. And but then again, as long as you knew what the starting point was, which is in the book, you're basically there. So when I was doing, I've always wanted to do a treasure hunt ever since I read Masquerade, way back when, and I wanted to have real world clues, and I couldn't figure out how to do that logically. And so one of the things I thought about was, first of all, they got to be permanent, because if a hunt lasts a year, your real world clues have to last a year. If your hunt's going to go on for decades, they got to last for decades. So it's tricky, and the first thing I always thought of was stones in cemeteries, because I'm a big cemetery buff. I've been to thousands of cemeteries, literally, and it's just, those are made to be permanent. And I've seen stones going way back to the 1800s, and so if you pick a stone in a cemetery, it's always going to be there. But I didn't want people going into cemeteries, and I know how inconsiderate some people can be, and I didn't want cemeteries involved, so it had to be something along that same line. And one of the things that made me even cement this fact even further was when the treasure trove concluded. Mike Stather brought all the winners together to have a big dinner, and there were two tables. There was a big table and a little table, and everyone sat around this big table, and Michael Stather sat at the little table. So I'm standing there thinking, of all the people I want to talk to, this is the guy whose brain I want to pick. He's got arguably one of the best treasure hunts that's ever been. So I sat down next to him and just basically interviewed him, like, how did you come up with this? What did you think? What were the biggest surprises? And I've said this before in other videos. He said one of the biggest surprises was that people shared things on the internet, and he didn't think that would happen because the clues in the book were all very similar. So he thought if someone solved one clue, they would be able to solve all the clues and just drive around and pick up all the tokens. He didn't expect someone to solve the clues and then share it, or post pictures of what they did and where they went and all this other stuff. He really didn't expect that. He expected there to be at least 1 to 3 winners of all the 13 prizes, and instead he had 13 different winners, one for each prize. And he said that blew him away. So that really stuck with me. So I thought, any treasure hunt done today, because I've been to the forums, and even the older ones, the Whistle Pig, The Secret, the Clock Without a Face, the one with the fox, Maranatha, I think. Everything is being shared online, and when someone solves something, it gets posted. And there's always these arrogant people, like, I've solved it and I'm gonna go get it, and then you never hear from them again. And but yeah, there's this whole internet community. It's not as big now. I went back to the forums before I came out this way, and I was really surprised to see the last post on some of the threads were 2-3 years ago, and I'm like, wow, everything's just kind of dead. There's the hunts that are out there have been there forever, no one's solving them. And so mine just kind of got thrown in the pile with those. But yeah, so I wanted real world clues in my book, and I went through thinking, all these books have clues that tell you where to go to finish it, but nothing really said go to this spot to get a clue or go to this spot and get a clue. So I was like, I want mine to be real world. And then going back to sharing, I thought, because one of the things for me, like if I had a book that you had to visit places, I wouldn't be able to. I'm you got to have gas, you got to have time off of work. I can't afford those things to drive all the way. The United States is a huge place for those of you not watching in the United States, but it's something you really can't do. And so thinking back of people sharing, I thought, well, if you have real world clues, I'm almost 100% sure that everyone that finds a real world clue is going to post pictures, going to post locations. And not only that, but if they post pictures and locations, you can look up other pictures. Maybe a tourist had been there before and look up pictures of the locations. So I thought, I don't think in this day and age, having a real world clue isn't that big a deal anymore. You don't have to travel there. As long as you got access to the internet, you're going to find out what you need to know. And that, to some extent, that's happened. I've already seen people posting like, hey, this has got to be this place and everything matches up perfectly, but we don't know what to do with this, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I've seen some people posting the right thing. So, all right. And they're sharing it just like I expected them to. So if you think you found a spot and you're going to post a picture, don't worry about it. That was totally expected. You're helping other people. If you want to keep it secret to yourself, that's fine. But I just think there's so many people out there, it'll get shared. So I chose some real world locations, and at the time, I was living in the area, and so most of them are in this area. And I'm trying not to give out clues. I really am, because I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be a forest fed who every time he talks, he gives a clue. But some things from what I read in the forums are already out there. Another thing I want to point out before I go forward is that I said early on that I will not answer emails. And this is just a very logistical thing that needs to be done, because if I answer one email, I got to answer them all. And then I've seen the email, people are sending me emails, and I can't answer those questions. I just can't, If I answer, someone says, hey, I just solved this part, is this right? I can't answer that. Or if I go here, will I find what I need? I am not going to answer that. If I answer that, then somebody's got privileged information, and that's just a whole sticky can of worms. So I said flat out, I will not answer any questions sent to me. I said I'll think about it. If someone posts it publicly, I might answer it, but I'm not going to get into minutia. If someone says, hey, I went to this location and I didn't know if it was this or this, can you clarify? No, I'm not going to clarify. I don't want to answer questions, because that I'm ignoring all questions. But I do see questions coming in, and a lot of people, when they write in, they're like, well, I went there and there was nothing there, so you're baloney. People get really angry about this. And even back with the treasure trove, someone had won, I can't remember what the first one was, of the spider or something, but then my son and I found the snail, which is number 2, and so we were the second one that found it. And I just found out, people sent me hate mail, and people were accusing me of lying and creating a story and not really winning, and it was insane. And so these are things too that I had to consider, that people are going to. Well, one person asked me a question, I refused to answer it. They went to Amazon and left bad reviews. So there's people like that out there. And so keeping that in mind and reading the emails, and I'm like, I'm going to put this whole thing to rest. So this morning, and again, I was in the car for 24 hours. It's a long story. I left work at 7 a.m. in Iowa, and that was prior to that 7 a.m. I'd gone probably 12, 14 hours without any sleep at all, and then I only got a couple hours sleep. And that's why I spent so much time in the car. I pull into a rest area, and I you have to take naps if you're driving that tired. And I ended up spending way too much time in the rest area. I ended up and this is crazy, but it's like a 14-hour drive for me. But I slept 9 hours. I pulled into one rest area and slept 3 hours, and then like, you know, another 4 or 5 hours down the road, I thought, man, I better pull over again. I'm still getting sleepy, and I slept for 6 hours, and I just couldn't believe it. I pulled in, I stopped, and when I woke up, I just was like, oh, I must have slept for like an hour, and I was really disoriented. And I'm looking at the clock, I'm thinking, that can't be right, you know, but it was. So I just ended up spending a lot of time in the car. I got here, and I had a route I was going to take, and I got to the beginning of the route, and I still had like 4 hours to go. So I literally sat in the car for 4 hours at the beginning of my route, which was interesting because it was in the middle of this neighborhood, and these cops kept driving by me. I mean, like literally every 15 minutes for 4 hours, they would drive by and look at me. And so I must have aroused suspicions of somebody. But as soon as the time hit, I started hitting all the locations. I took pictures, I compared them with my notes. By the time the day was done, I had hit every location. Everything's perfectly safe. Everything is right where it is. Some of the emails, like I said, I went to this location and there's nothing there. I went to this location and, you know, what you think was there is probably gone. I'm like, no. So today I verified it. Everything is there. Everything is perfectly fine. Someone's already shared pictures of some of them. Some of them I realized today when I was driving to them, like, oh, these are kind of good locations. They're not easy to get to. Not in a sense that, you know, you can just take a bus to them. And I was like, I just was like pleased with myself, thinking, okay, yeah, look how I wrote this clue, and look where this location is. Perfect. It's just perfect. So I'm blowing my own horn right now, but yeah. So I drove around, I did all that, and everything is spot on. So if you're writing me saying I went to this location, you went to the wrong location, or you're not looking in the right place, but it's there, and you know the clues tell you exactly where to go. And that's what I wanted. I wanted a real world location. So when I wrote my code, there's big chunks of the code that are blank, and they're filled in by the real world locations. And I just think that's neat. I think that adds a level that other hunts didn't have. And it helps people get together because, you know, I'm sure there's some guy in New York City that figured out something that he hasn't read in a forum. And that's when you get really excited. You're like, hey, I figured this out. And, you know, the first thing you're going to do is go to a forum or Google it and see if someone else has figured it out. That's what I did when I was reading the Forest Fen, and I was looking at maps, and I was studying things. I said, I think it's right here. And I went to a forum, and I found one guy that agreed with me. And I thought, oh, that's cool. And I went to another forum, and it said, like, well, hundreds of people have been there, and they haven't found anything. So I'm like, okay, so I came up with the same idea that hundreds of people did. And but yeah, it's helpful to go online and see that sort of thing. And there are some good forums out there. I'm kind of fond of 12.org. That's the forum I kind of grew up on. And the other one, Quest for Treasure, that's based in the UK, but they do American hunts. So that's it, but there's just very few. And like I said, they're kind of dead. And I don't think there's many people doing this. When a Treasure Trove came out, he sold over 1 million copies, and it boggles my mind that in this day and age, who couldn't use a couple of grand just handed to you. And why aren't people studying these more? And I still pull out the whistle pig. I know pretty much everything points to Pennsylvania. That could be a red herring. He could point everything to Pennsylvania, but then have it hidden in Ohio or something, because that's something I would do. But I don't go to Pennsylvania, not close to Pennsylvania. And there's the one, I can't remember, it's in New England somewhere. It's the one, I think it's Maranatha, that's on the island. I might be remembering these wrong, but there's an island up in New England, and they know it's on the island. I think that is Maranatha. Anyway, no one's found it, but I'm not in New England. And I live in Iowa now. I was thinking about doing one in Iowa where I'd pick a clue in each county, but then I realized Iowa has 99 counties, and it would take me years to visit them all. So I'm still trying to think of a good Iowa thing to do. But yeah, this is a hunt I did when I lived here, and or something I wrote when I was here. And a lot of the things in the book are have local ties, and if some of them will go straight over people's heads, they won't even know it unless they've lived here or have been here. And but that's not. That's what was the book I was reading? Oh, South Park. You know, I watched South Park for years, and then when I came to live here, and I lived here for like 3 or 4 years, that's when I watched South Park again. I'm like, God, every joke in South Park. Well, there's things that they talk about that you don't think are jokes, but are really jokes about this area because they grew up here, and that's what South Park is about. And I just thought that was funny, and so I there's some things in there that unless you're from here, you won't even notice them. But that has nothing to do with the hunt itself. That's just part of the story. But so yeah, I just want everyone to rest assured. I have looked at email. Like I said, I'm not going to answer any emails, and I'm not going to answer any pointed questions on the forums. If someone wants to ask me what my favorite color is, that's fine. If someone wants to ask me, hey, is this clue right? No, I'm not going to answer those type of questions. But I can tell you one thing, everything is right where they should be. I actually went through, I have a copy of the book that I've written in, and I brought that with me, and I actually went through and I read the clue and I followed it, and there it is, and checked it off, and put everything together. It's I spent years doing that before I even published. Let me tell you a story about this. I know in Michael Stather's book there were typos in the solves, and so a lot of people were like, oh, that's a clue in itself, and so I didn't want there to be any typos, so I would go through over and over again, and like right when I was finalizing everything, I found a typo, and it bugged the crap out of me. And so I thought, well, it can't be too hard, but if you change a letter in in the solve, then that changes the clues that lead to that letter, and that changes the clues that lead to that clue, and it turned into this whole Pandora's box of going all the way back, and I literally had to rewrite everything, which meant I had to start all over and go through everything. So this is meticulous, and I made sure everything is spot on, and like I said, I've always maintained this, and if you follow the clues, it will lead you to within inches of the final destination. And not to say you might get within miles of it and search your heart out and find it, or you might find the minutia of where it is and then go search every single place looking for that thing. So there's different ways you could do it, but the easiest way is to solve everything, and it'll take you right there. And so without a doubt, that's the one thing I didn't check, but every time I've come, that's always been there. But tomorrow morning I'm going to go and check the final destination, and I'm sure it's going to be there. It's always been there. And it's just the perfect hiding spot. I just can't believe I found it. So rest assured, I've had some adventures this trip, and I'll talk about them in other videos. But as far as the book goes, it's how it should be, and there's no mistakes. I do know that one of the places that had a real world clue was torn down, and that as soon as I published, they announced that we're tearing this park up. I thought, oh man, how am I going to handle that? But they rebuilt it identically to what it was before, and I went there this morning. I'm like, it's exactly the same. All they did was make everything new, and that's exactly the same. The clue still works, so I'm good with everything. And so for those of you writing in saying, hey, I went to the spot and I found nothing, I try again. So I just wanted to rest everybody's put to rest all these questions. I had fun today. It was fun revisiting all these places. A lot of these places are near and dear to me. I was disappointed. One of the places that I used to hang out with is got a big fence around it now, and it's all walled in. And I'm like, how could they do that? How do you even I don't know, it was just bizarre, and it has nothing to do with the book, but it's just a place I like to hang out, and it's still there. You can look at it through the fence. I'm like, but they walled it off, you know. I don't know, but it's interesting. I just had a calzone for my favorite Italian place, and I forgot to look at the ingredients, and I remembered now after I ordered it that I always ordered it whole the jalapenos because I just can't handle hot. So I'm just sitting here and my mouth is burning. But I had a lot of fun today. It was fun revisiting everything. It was fun just verifying everything works and everything's still there. And I just was waiting to pass this line. I came into the hotel room and I hit the pool for a few hours. And then I came up here, and I mean, I sat on the bed, and I had plans to do this video even, and I fell asleep. I mean, I passed right out. And when I woke up, my glasses had fallen off, and they were just smashed. So I spent like 15 minutes just, because you can't just bend your glasses back in shape because they could break. So I was just like really meticulously bending my glasses so that they fit back on my head. So I'm pretty sure they're at the end of their life and stuff. So, but yeah, it was a fun day. I drove all over. I spent so much time. I mean, that was 24 hours from the time I left work to the time I started this. And then about another 12 hours of me just having fun around the city, verifying everything. And then I finally verified the last one. I was like, woo. You know, checked that off in the book, and I was done, and I went to have a calzone, and the rest is history. So anyway, have a good night. I just wanted to get this out there, and 20 minutes was my limit, so I'm a little bit over. But have a good night, and rest assured that everything's working, and happy hunting.